we're pretty close to another shutdown, possibly. I've heard talk of a deal where Democrats might vote to fund the government if Republicans agree to a short-term extension of the Obamacare health insurance premium subsidies. Do you think Democrats should take that deal?
Well, I'm not going to vote to fund Donald Trump's ongoing lawbreaking, right? Because right now, any agreement is not worth the paper it's written on, because Donald Trump is withholding funds illegally as we speak, including funding, for cancer patients at NIH. And so Republicans need to do what they said they were going to do, at least some Republicans in the Senate, which is to put up guardrails to prevent that kind of illegal withholding. Beyond that, of course, we want to address the issues of the drop-off in the premium tax credits for the Affordable Care Act. I mean, Republicans should have dealt with this already. They've left a ticking time bomb on health care for Americans, and we hope to address that. But how all of that gets addressed is another question. Again, fundamentally, the question is, how can you fund something where you can't trust the president to keep his word?
That's what a great attorney general looks like, folks.
What does Senator Ernst's open seat mean for Democrats nationally?
And I was proud.
I think this is a great opportunity for a Democratic candidate to win the Senate seat in Iowa. I think you have two things going on. One is the ongoing attacks on our democracy and our Constitution, but you also have the Trump slump. Trump promised that he was going to bring down prices on day one of groceries, of houses. He hasn't done that. In fact, he's done just the opposite, right? His across-the-board tariffs are like a national sales tax. Everybody's paying more. The economy's slowing down. We are facing the Trump slump. And I can tell you, as I visit places in my state of Maryland, but even just in my stops in Iowa already, there's a real sense of betrayal, even among some of the folks who voted for Donald Trump. He said he was going to campaign and fight for working people, and he's turned his back on it. And Exhibit A is the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, which is beautiful if you're a billionaire, but for everybody else, it stinks. It cuts Medicaid, it cuts food nutrition programs, it explodes our national debt. So I think there's a lot of buyer's remorse out there, and I think in this moment, you're seeing a lot of energy throughout the grassroots to say we need a much stronger check on the President of the United States. And that would be Democratic majorities in the House and Senate.
Senator, there have been deployments of the National Guard to Washington, D.C. We see the National Guard in Union Station, on the Mall, deployment in Memphis, Chicago. What are your concerns about that? Do you think it could potentially escalate violence? What are you looking at with that? And again, what are your concerns?
Yeah, this is doing nothing to make people more safe. This is a political spectacle. In many places, it's already been found illegal. For example, the deployment of the National Guard in Los Angeles. The District of Columbia is a special case when it comes to the legalities of it. But people need to understand that Donald Trump and the Republicans are right now withholding $1 billion of DC residents' tax money that they would like to use for public safety, for more police. And so this is a political spectacle, an illegal political spectacle when it comes to areas outside of Washington, D.C.
Do you think the deployment in D.C. specifically reinforces the argument of those who believe that D.C. should have statehood, that Ankit Jain, their shadow senator, should be a full U.S. senator instead of in the municipal office building half a mile from your office?
Yeah, it's a real stain on our country. The world's greatest democracy, the people who live in our nation's capital don't have a vote for a member of the House who votes, or for two senators. So I'm the chief author of the bill to provide the people in the District of Columbia with statehood. And I think people need to understand that the population of D.C. is bigger than the population of two states. It's bigger than the population of Wyoming. It's bigger than the population of Vermont. And if you look at the
close to North Dakota,
but if you look at the share of federal tax revenue paid by people in D.C., it's very high, much higher than many other parts of the country. So yes, they should have self-determination. We need to do that.
Utah's governor offered a message yesterday about logging off of social media. Trying to tone down. What's your message in this one?
Well, and I'm going to speak about it a little bit here, but first and foremost, we can disagree, but there's no room for political violence. And all of us need to be clear that we have a tradition in this country of having debates, vigorous debates, but all of us have to come in to making it clear those have to be peaceful. And, this is not a moment for revenge. I am troubled by the fact that the President of the United States, at this moment, rather than bringing the country together, to say no to political violence, has decided to engage in finger pointing. That is not the kind of unifying message that we need.
Very specifically on social media, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act allows platforms like Facebook, X to operate just like that as platforms, as almost digital versions of like a ream of beat paper where they just put something out there blank and whoever fills it in, and they're not liable for it. Those of us who work for various newspapers in the state, we're responsible for not only every word that we put in the paper, but the quotes, those from contributors, other journalists. Is that fair? Should Section 230 be removed so that Facebook and Twitter and these other platforms are responsible for all the content that they put out?
Well, I certainly believe it should be reformed. I don't think that social media platforms should be able to allow anything on their platforms and then say, it's not our stuff, we have no control. I think we're especially seeing damage to kids.
Good afternoon, everybody.
That's been pretty well documented in terms of
Who here is
mental
ready
health
to get
impacts and
Democrats elected
emotional
up and down
impacts
the ballot next year?
of exposure to some of the stuff on social media. So I'm in favor of reforming that process.
What do you feel about this redistricting, mid-decade redistricting war that we're in? I mean, Maryland is already somewhat gerrymandered, but there's been talk about drawing the map again to eliminate a Republican district. How do you feel about that?
So let me be clear about this. Number one, I support on a national basis nonpartisan drawing of congressional lines. And I'm a sponsor of legislation to do that. I think that would be best for the country, for every state to draw their lines in a nonpartisan way, like you do in Iowa. But I'm also against unilateral disarmament. And Republicans have been blocking that bill on a national basis. They've been blocking that bill because if you have fair line drawing on a national basis, you would see Republicans lose their seats in Congress. And so I am against unilateral disarmament, so now that Texas is doing mid-cycle redistricting, I am applauding what California is doing. I think other states are looking at it. The state of Maryland is looking at it and should be looking at it because when they try to rig a state like Texas midterm, you can't just sit still because this is the control of the House of Representatives that's at stake. And we need Democratic majorities to be a check on this lawless president.
Thank you for your time, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you all.